I never thought my marriage would lead me to a night that would shatter everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and desire. My name is Helena, and for 12 years, Nathan and I have built a life that looks ordinary on the surface. Shared mornings, quiet dinners, the hum of a home we've made ours. But beneath that facade, we've danced on the edge of boundaries most wouldn't dare to cross, weaving a bond that thrives on the unspoken, the daring. Tonight, though, something shifted. A request from Nathan sent my heart racing and my world tilting, pushing us into a storm of emotions I couldn't predict. As I stood in our dimly lit living room, the air thick with tension, I felt the ground crumble beneath me. What did I just agree to, and how will it change us forever? Picture this: the faint hum of a city waking up beyond my window, the kind of restless energy that seeps into your bones before you've even had your first sip of coffee. I'm standing here, staring at the cracked mirror in our bedroom, tracing the lines on my face that weren't there a decade ago. My name's Helena, and at 37, I've lived enough to know that life doesn't play by the rules you scribble down in a diary as a starry-eyed teenager. I've been married to Nathan for 12 years now, and if you think that sounds like a neat little fairy tale, well, you're in for a surprise. Our story isn't wrapped in a pretty bow. It's more like a tangled knot, one you can't help but pick at, even when you know it might unravel everything. Nathan and I, we're not what you'd call conventional. From the outside, we might look like any other couple. Shared bills, a cluttered kitchen, the occasional argument over who forgot to take out the trash. But beneath the surface, there's a current that runs deeper, darker, something most people wouldn't dare to touch. See, our marriage isn't just built on love or loyalty, though those are there in spades. It's built on a kind of understanding that most folks would shy away from. A silent agreement that lets us explore the edges of what a relationship can be. I'm not talking about anything illegal or harmful, mind you, just different. A dance of boundaries pushed and pulled, a game of trust that sometimes feels like walking a tightrope with no net below. I remember the first time I realized we weren't like everyone else. It wasn't some grand moment, no dramatic revelation under a stormy sky. It was quiet, almost mundane, over a glass of cheap wine in our tiny apartment back when we were still figuring out how to share a space. Nathan looked at me, his hazel eyes catching the dim light, and said something that shifted everything. He spoke of desires, not just the kind you whisper in the heat of the moment, but the kind that linger in the back of your mind, daring you to give them a name. I won't spell it out. Let's just say it was about craving something beyond the usual, a spark that ignites when you least expect it. And instead of pulling away, I leaned in. That was the start of us rewriting the rules, crafting a marriage that's as much about freedom as it is about commitment. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not all some wild, untamed adventure. There are days when I question everything, when the weight of our choices presses down like a stone on my chest. I've spent nights lying awake next to Nathan, listening to his steady breathing, wondering if we've gone too far, if we've built something that could crumble under its own complexity. But then morning comes, and he'll reach for my hand without even opening his eyes. And I'm reminded why I said I do in the first place. The rain is coming down in sheets tonight, a steady drumbeat against the windows of our living room, where the dim glow of a single lamp casts long shadows across the walls. I'm curled up on the couch, a glass of red wine in my hand, the second of the evening, its warmth spreading through me as I watch the droplets race down the glass pane. Nathan sits across from me in his favorite armchair, his own glass half empty, his posture relaxed, but his gaze intense. There's a charge in the air, a quiet tension that's been building beneath the surface all day, maybe longer. I can feel it, like static before a storm, and I know he's about to say something that'll shift the ground beneath us. His hazel eyes lock onto mine, piercing through the haze of the wine and the soft patter of the rain. And then he speaks, his voice low and deliberate, each word landing like a stone in still water. "Helena, I've been thinking, I want to see you with 3 of my friends. I want to watch. The room seems to shrink in an instant, the walls closing in as my breath catches in my throat. My heart starts pounding, a wild rhythm I can feel in my chest, my ears, even my fingertips as they tighten around the stem of the wine glass, the cool glass grounding me against the heat rushing to my face. I stare at him, searching his expression for a hint of jest, a crack in the seriousness. But there's nothing, just that steady, unflinching gaze. My mind reels, spinning through 1,000 thoughts at once. Shock hits first, sharp and cold, like stepping into icy water. How could he ask this? How could he even think I'd consider something so beyond the boundaries we've already stretched? But beneath the shock, there's something else, a flicker of intrigue I don't want to acknowledge, sparked by the raw honesty in his voice, the way he's laid himself bare with this desire. I take a slow sip of wine, buying time, feeling the liquid burn down my throat as I wrestle with myself. Our marriage has always been about trust, about pushing limits together, but this feels different. This feels like a line I'm not sure I can cross, like a betrayal of something sacred, even if it's consensual. I think about the years we've spent building this life, the unspoken promises woven into every late-night conversation, every shared glance. We've danced on the edge before, explored desires most would never voice, but this is a leap into uncharted territory, and I'm not sure I'm ready to jump. My stomach twists, a knot of fear and curiosity tangling together, and I realize I can't just say no, not yet. I need to know how far he's willing to take this, how deep this fantasy runs in him. So I set the glass down, my hand steady despite the tremor I feel inside, and I meet his eyes with a challenge of my own. All right, Nathan. Here I am, the next evening, pacing our living room like a caged animal, my nerves frayed to the point of snapping. I've dimmed the lights to a soft amber glow, casting shadows that dance across the walls, making the space feel both intimate and suffocating. A tray of drinks sits on the coffee table, glasses of wine and a pitcher of water, condensation beating on the glass as if it's sweating as much as I am. I adjust the cushions on the couch for the 3rd time, trying to steady my breathing, but my chest feels tight, like I'm breathing through a straw. Every tick of the clock on the mantel is a hammer against my skull, counting down to something I'm not sure I'm ready for. I've agreed to this, turned Nathan's request around in a way that felt like taking control, but now that the moment is here, doubt gnaws at me like a persistent ache. The doorbell chimes, sharp and sudden, slicing through the quiet. My heart lurches as I smooth my hands over my jeans and force my feet to move toward the door. When I open it, there they are. Lydia, Marissa, and Tara, my closest friends, standing on the threshold with an energy that crackles like static. They're dressed casually, jeans and sweaters, but there's an unmistakable air of excitement clinging to them, a brightness in their eyes that makes my stomach twist. Lydia, with her sharp features and dark hair, steps in first, her lips curling into a wicked grin as she looks me up and down. Marissa follows, her cheeks already tinged pink, her gaze darting away as if she's embarrassed to meet my eyes. Tara, always the boldest, gives me a playful wink, her auburn curls bouncing as she brushes past me, like she's been waiting for an invitation like this her whole life. I try to smile, but it feels brittle, like it might crack under the weight of what's coming. I lead them into the living room, my voice shaky as I gesture to the drinks and mumble something about making themselves comfortable. Nathan is already there, standing by the window, his posture relaxed in a way that feels almost unnatural given the circumstances. He turns as they enter, his charming smile sliding into place like a mask, and he greets them with a warmth that makes my skin prickle. I can see it in their faces. They're drawn to him, to that effortless charisma he's always had. I sit down on a chair across the room, distancing myself from the group, my hands clutching a small handheld camera. My fingers tremble as I fumble with the power button, the weight of the device grounding me even as my mind spins. I press record, the tiny red light blinking to life, and I feel like I've just crossed a threshold I can't step back from. I clear my throat, the sound harsh in the quiet room, and I start to explain why they're here, why I've asked them to come. My words stumble over each other, clumsy and raw, as I lay out the arrangement Nathan and I have made, the boundaries we've set, and what we're asking of them tonight. Lydia lets out a low, throaty laugh, her grin widening as if she's delighted by the audacity of it all. Marissa's blush deepens, spreading across her face like wildfire, but she nods slowly, her hands fidgeting in her lap. Tara's wink turns into a sly smile, her eyes glinting with mischief as she leans back on the couch, completely at ease. Their reactions are a kaleidoscope of emotions, each one hitting me differently, but it's Nathan's calm that unnerves me most. He watches them, then turns his gaze to me, his hazel eyes steady, almost daring me to back out now. And then it begins. Nathan moves first, stepping closer to the couch where they sit, his presence commanding the room without effort. I'm frozen in my chair, the camera shaking slightly in my grip as I capture every moment, every shift in the air. Their laughter, which had filled the space moments ago, fades into hushed whispers, the kind that carry a weight I can feel in my chest. I'm still reeling from what just unfolded in this room, my mind a chaotic swirl of images and emotions I can't quite pin down. The camera, now off, sits on the coffee table like a silent witness to everything I've captured, everything I've felt. My hands are still trembling as I set it down, the cool surface of the table grounding me for just a moment before the weight of it all crashes back in. I glance over at Nathan, his face a mask I can't read, part satisfaction, part something deeper, something I'm not sure I want to understand. His hazel eyes meet mine briefly before flicking away, and I feel the air between us thicken with unspoken words. Lydia, Marissa, and Tara murmur something about needing a moment to freshen up, their voices soft as they slip out of the room, their footsteps fading down the hallway. I can sense they feel the shift too, the heavy tension that's settled over us like a fog. They're giving us space, and I'm not sure if I'm grateful or terrified to be left alone with him right now. It's just Nathan and me now, the silence between us louder than any words could be. The only sounds are our uneven breathing and the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, a mundane reminder of normalcy that feels so far out of reach. My chest tightens as I sit here, rooted to the spot, my mind a storm of conflicting feelings. There's anger simmering beneath the surface, anger at myself for going along with this, for letting things get this far, and maybe even at Nathan for wanting it in the first place. But there's curiosity too, sharp and insistent, pricking at me with questions I don't want to answer. What does this mean for us now? How do I reconcile what I've just seen, what I've just been a part of, with the life we've built? And then there's this strange, heavy sense of obligation pulling at me, like a thread I can't cut. Nathan did this for me in a way, opened a door I didn't even know I wanted to peek through, and now I feel bound to return the gesture, to balance the scales of our unconventional trust. I push myself up from the chair, my bare feet cold against the hardwood floor, each step deliberate as I cross the room to where Nathan sits on the couch. The chill of the wood sends a shiver up my spine, mirroring the uncertainty that's taken root inside me. I lower myself beside him, close enough that I can feel the warmth radiating from him, a stark contrast to the icy doubt in my veins. My heart is pounding so hard I'm sure he can hear it, but I lean in anyway, my voice dropping to a whisper, barely audible even in the quiet. Now I'll do it for you. Only because you did it for me first. The words feel heavy as they leave my lips, like I'm signing a contract I can't unread. Nathan's eyes light up, a flicker of relief and something else, anticipation maybe, dancing in their depths. He nods, just once, and his hand finds mine, squeezing it with a firmness that feels both reassuring and binding. It's a silent agreement, a pact renewed in the space between us, and I know there's no turning back now. The weight of my decision settles over me like a shroud, pressing down on my shoulders, making every breath feel a little harder. I've crossed so many lines already tonight, pushed past boundaries I never thought I'd even approach, and now I'm stepping into something even more uncharted. My mind races with what-ifs, with the consequences I can't predict, but there's a part of me, a small, reckless part, that feels the pull of this moment, the thrill of fulfilling a promise so raw and real. I think about everything that led us here, the years of trust we've woven into something most would never understand. The way Nathan has always been there to catch me when I've stumbled on this tightrope we walk. And yet, as I sit here, his hand still in mine, I can't shake the feeling that I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, the ground crumbling beneath my feet. Here I am, standing in the living room, the weight of my promise to Nathan pressing down on me like a physical force. My pulse is a relentless drum in my ears, each beat echoing the decision I've made, the line I'm about to cross. The space feels different now, smaller somehow, as if the walls have crept closer while I wasn't looking. The soft amber glow of the lamps casts flickering shadows, making the familiar seem foreign, and the air hangs heavy with expectation, thick with a tension I can almost taste. There's a faint scent of cologne lingering, mixing with the subtle, lingering aroma of the wine we drank earlier, a reminder of how this night began with something as simple as a glass shared between us. My hands are clammy, and I wipe them on my jeans, trying to steady myself for what's coming. The doorbell chimes again, a sharp intrusion into the quiet, and my stomach flips as I move to answer it. I open the door to find Ethan, Caleb, and Derek standing there, their faces a mix of casual ease and something unspoken, something that mirrors the storm inside me. Ethan steps in first, his confident smirk cutting through the tension like a blade, his eyes glinting with a knowing look as he nods at me, like he's already sized up the situation. Caleb follows, his quiet intensity palpable. He barely meets my gaze, his jaw tight as he shuffles in, hands shoved deep in his pockets, as if he's holding himself back from something. Derek, ever the charmer, flashes an easy grin, his voice smooth as he compliments the house, his words a light veneer over the undercurrent of anticipation in his tone. I force a smile, my lips tight, and gesture them inside, my voice catching just slightly as I tell them to make themselves at home. We move into the living room, and I see Nathan sitting in the same chair I occupied earlier, his posture still, his expression unreadable. His hazel eyes track every movement, every breath, and I feel the weight of his gaze like a physical touch. The room seems to shrink even further with all of us here, the space charged with an energy that makes my skin prickle. I take a deep breath, the air feeling thick as it fills my lungs, and I step forward, my heart racing so fast I'm sure everyone can hear it. I'm mirroring what I saw Nathan do not long ago, stepping into a role I never imagined I'd play, my body moving almost on autopilot while my mind screams with a mix of fear and resolve. As I engage with them, it's surreal, like I'm watching myself from outside my own body. Ethan's hand is warm as it brushes mine, a deliberate gesture that sends a jolt through me, his smirk never wavering as he leans in just close enough to make my breath hitch. Caleb's presence is a quiet storm beside me, his touch tentative but heavy with unspoken intent, his eyes finally meeting mine for a fleeting second before darting away again. Derek's charm is disarming, his words low and teasing as his fingers linger just a moment too long, a warmth spreading where they graze my skin. I can hear my own breathing, uneven and shallow, a stark contrast to the steady rhythm I'm trying to project. Every so often my gaze flicks to Nathan, searching for a reaction, a sign of what he's feeling. His face remains stoic, a mask I can't penetrate, but his eyes are locked on mine, intense and unwavering, just as mine were on him earlier. It's a mirror of that moment, a reflection of the trust and challenge we've always shared, now pushed to its furthest edge. This isn't about desire, not really. It's something deeper, something raw and unnameable. It's about trust, about proving something to each other in a way words could never capture. The physicality of it all, the warmth of their hands, the closeness of their presence, the way the air seems to hum with every subtle shift, fades into the background. What matters is the emotional weight, the unspoken bond between Nathan and me that threads through this moment like a lifeline. I feel it in the way my chest tightens, not from nerves now. It's the early hours of the morning now, and the house is eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the storm of emotions and events that unfolded just hours ago. Everyone has left. Ethan, Caleb, Derek, Lydia, Marissa, and Tara have all slipped out into the night, their departures marked by soft goodbyes and lingering glances that carried a weight I can't quite decipher. Now, it's just Nathan and me, sitting side by side on the couch in our living room, a worn blanket draped over our shoulders like a fragile shield against the rawness of what we've been through. The amber glow of the lamp has dimmed, casting long, tired shadows across the room, and the faint scent of spilled wine and faded cologne still lingers in the air, a reminder of the intensity that filled this space. Outside, the world is hushed, save for the occasional distant hum of a car passing by, its tires whispering against the damp streets. I can feel the coolness of the hardwood floor beneath my bare feet, grounding me even as my mind refuses to settle. My body is heavy, like I've run a marathon I didn't train for, every muscle aching with an exhaustion that goes beyond the physical. My shoulders slump under an invisible weight, and my hands rest limply in my lap, fingers occasionally twitching as if they're still processing the night. But while my body begs for rest, my mind is a whirlwind, racing through every moment, every glance, every unspoken word that passed between us and the others. There's a rawness in my chest, an emotional bruise that throbs with every breath, a mix of vulnerability and something I can't quite name. Maybe relief, maybe regret, or maybe something in between. I keep replaying the way the air shifted, the way boundaries blurred into something unrecognizable, and how, in the midst of it all, I felt both shattered and strangely whole. It's a paradox I can't unravel. Not yet. Not in this quiet aftermath where the echoes of our choices still reverberate. Nathan shifts beside me, the blanket rustling softly, and I feel the warmth of his arm brushing against mine, a small anchor in the sea of my thoughts. His breathing is slow, deliberate, like he's trying to steady himself too, and for a long moment, neither of us speaks. The silence stretches, heavy but not uncomfortable, as if we're both afraid to break it, to give voice to the things we're feeling. Finally, he turns his head just enough to look at me, his hazel eyes softer now, stripped of the intensity they held earlier, but still searching. His voice, when it comes, is low, almost hesitant, a tone I rarely hear from him. I didn't expect it to feel so intense, so personal, he admits, the words hanging between us like a confession. There's a vulnerability in his gaze, a crack in the armor he usually wears so effortlessly, and it tugs at something deep inside me. I nod slowly, my throat tight as I struggle to find my own words. I felt it too, I manage, my voice barely above a whisper, rough with the weight of everything I've held back. It wasn't just what happened. It was how it made me see us, how it stripped everything down to the bone. I pause, swallowing hard, feeling the heat of unshed tears behind my eyes. I won't cry, not now, but the emotion is there, raw and unfiltered, clawing at the edges of my control. We sit with that for a moment, letting the truth of it settle, acknowledging that what we did tonight wasn't just a game or a test. It was a mirror held up to our marriage, reflecting parts of ourselves we hadn't dared to look at before. We start to talk then, really talk, our voices soft and cautious, like we're navigating a minefield of feelings we're not sure we're ready to face. I bring up trust, how it's always been the foundation of what we have, even when we've ventured into territory others would never understand. It was extreme, I say, my fingers twisting the edge of the blanket as I speak. But somehow, it made me see things differently. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.